Hey guys, Dr. Shelley here. I know that car accidents can be a huge financial burden. And I want to share with you 3 really important things that you should know that are going to help you decrease the financial burden after a car accident. And many times this information can actually help you make money after an accident. And before I share these things with you, I just want to let everybody know I am not an attorney. I'm a chiropractor. So I work with a lot of people who have been in car accidents, and that's how I've learned this over the years. But I am not an attorney, and this is not legal advice. But these are 3 really important things that everybody who drives needs to know. Number 1, you need to know about your auto insurance. So it is illegal to drive without coverage, at least in Florida. And actually, everything I'm about to tell you applies to Florida. I think most of what I'm about to tell you applies nationally, but I'm in Florida and I know the Florida law. So if you're not in Florida, I would look up what I'm saying just to make sure it applies to you too. So you need to know what kind of coverage you have. When you get behind the wheel and you're driving, you should have insurance. Because if you're in a car accident, you might be the best driver in the world, but that doesn't mean that everybody else on the road is. And you want to make sure that you are covered. You want to make sure if you've had any injuries that you don't have to pay for those things. Going to the hospital can be ridiculously expensive. I think they charge you $600 if you need a toothbrush when you're in the hospital. But in Florida, there's something called personal injury protection, okay? Your auto insurance will pay you if you were in a car accident. Well, not pay you. Let me rephrase that. Your auto insurance will pay $10,000 in medical expenses and lost wages. So if you're in an accident and you're injured and you're not able to go to work, that money, the lost wages there, you're covered if you have insurance. You are not covered if you do not have insurance. Also, if you were to go to the hospital or if you were to go to a medical doctor or get an MRI, if you were to go to a chiropractor to get treatment for these injuries from your accident, that personal injury protection money from your insurance company will cover you. Okay? So that's number 1. If you do not have that, your car accident just got really expensive. And I'm not even talking about the damage to your car. I'm talking about the damage to your body. Medical expenses are, most of you know how expensive it is to go to the hospital or go to a medical doctor. So just make sure you have insurance, okay? In Florida, you are covered. You have $10,000 to use on healthcare for injuries from your accident. Number 2, you have to know about a settlement option. You have to know what you're entitled to. And this mostly applies to an accident where it was not your fault, okay? This is not in all cases, but most of the time, and just to keep things simple with my explanation, if somebody else hit you and it was not your fault, okay, you might be entitled to some kind of settlement amount, okay? In order to get a settlement, and for those of you who live in Florida, especially places like Orlando or Miami, bigger cities, and you're driving down the highway, every, half a mile, there's another huge billboard that says something along the lines of, this attorney got me $1 million, right? Or I was in an accident and I got $100,000, whatever. So that's real. That is settlements that these people received because of the injuries that they incurred when they were in a car accident. So you have to know about your settlement, okay? You can't just not know about it. The best way to find out about whether or not you are entitled to any kind of settlement amount is to go talk to an attorney. It is my understanding that attorneys don't even charge you to sit down and talk to them about this. They only charge you if, they take a percentage of the settlement amount. But there's a couple things that I know about that I want to share with you as far as your settlement to make sure that you actually receive money and you don't end up paying outstanding medical bills or anything like that. First of all, right after your accident, and I'm hoping that nobody watching this is going to get in an accident, but statistically you might, okay? After your accident, if you are capable of taking any kind of pictures of bruising or the damage on your car or anything like that, photos and videos can make or break a case, because you can't really argue. I mean, you can, but to a degree, it's hard to argue a a photo or a video. When your case goes to settle, maybe 9 months, a year later, and you're like, oh, I had a bruise on my leg, it's a lot easier to prove that to somebody when you have documentation in visual format. So just, if you're capable, if you're not injured to the point where you're in an ambulance going to the hospital, I mean, try to take pictures if you can, okay? It should be the first thing you do after, calling all the correct people, like you call 911 if you're injured, if no one called already, if the police didn't show up, you want to call them, all of the basics, but people generally don't think about taking pictures, and you want to do that, okay? The other thing that you can do as far as your settlement is concerned is you have to make sure that the doctors you're working with, so if you go to get treatment, that just ask them if they have experience with personal injury. Usually if you go to an attorney first, they'll refer you to, they'll recommend that you go see someone who has experience with personal injury, because the documentation of your treatment can also make or break your settlement amount, okay? And people who work with a lot of people who have been injured like this, they are familiar with what kind of documentation is required. All right. So if you go to, let's say you're seeing a chiropractor after a car accident and, something strange was happening, like, you weren't able to like pick up your kid like you used to, right? Because your back hurts. And you might not think that, you might just think, oh, my back is sore. It's no big deal. That's not something that they need to document. They already have, back pain documented. But make sure you tell that chiropractor that you're working with that you're not able to pick up your kid, and that's affecting your life, because details like that can affect your settlement. Like, how did this injury negatively affect your life on a day-to-day basis? Or let's say you have a bad bruise on your face and you took a picture of it and it's apparent that it's there, but how is that affecting your life? Are you ashamed to go to work? Like, you're really, shy now because you don't look as good? Did you have a divorce because of it? Because you're, I don't know. But just like all these details that you think might not matter, just tell your doctor so they can document it, okay? The other thing is, as far as your settlement goes, is your settlement can happen a couple months after your accident, or it can happen a couple years after your accident. Generally, the settlement process will start going when you're done with treatment. Okay, so when let's say you're seeing a chiropractor, for example, and they're like, okay, we did all the treatment, this is as good as we can get you, okay? Like, you still have these residual issues, right? That's when your case will begin to settle, okay? Or the other way a case will begin to settle is that when your value of the treatment you're receiving actually exceeds your insurance coverage, okay? So remember, I told you that in Florida, at least, you have $10,000 of coverage to use. And let's say you're up to $15,000, $20,000 of treatment already, which is not hard to do, guys, because going to the hospital can be a big chunk of that, or, getting, MRIs and seeing specialty doctors. It can be really expensive and run up those medical bills really fast. So if your treatment has already exceeded your coverage, then your settlement process will begin to start rolling, okay? The third thing that I already touched on, but I want to just emphasize, is go to doctors who document everything well. And like I said, I already mentioned this, but this is so important, okay? Because I'll tell you what I do, at least, okay? And I know I'm speaking for a lot of my friends who are chiropractors also. And I'll be honest with you guys, when I first started seeing patients for treatment after their auto accident, it was new to me. It was a whole nother beast. It was a different way of practicing, because acute injuries are different than chronic conditions that I normally am helping people with. So when I first started doing this years ago, my documentation needed some help, and I asked for help because I didn't want to mess up somebody's case. I didn't want to decrease the possibility that they might actually receive some kind of settlement if I didn't document something fully, or if I didn't include details that the attorneys and the insurance adjusters needed for this person's case. Of course, my priority is to make sure that person starts getting better and heals. I'm treating them. That's my main goal. But the other goal of mine is to make sure that I am documenting everything properly so that person actually has a potential to make back some of this money from lost wages or from permanent injuries, things like that. So just make sure that you're going to somebody who knows what they're doing as far as your personal injury treatment is concerned. The other thing that comes up a lot in that category of what doctor to go to is you might be working with an attorney. You might have found an attorney. You might have seen somebody's face on a bus and you want to work with them, or you saw a billboard and you thought you were going to get $1 million or whatever. You found this attorney, you sat down, you signed all the paperwork. They're your attorney now, okay? They usually recommend to you different places you can go. They don't tell you where to go, but they're like, oh, you could go see this person here or here. We have a good working relationship with them. You have a choice, okay? I know sometimes when you're sitting down in front of an attorney, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting down in front of an attorney. I can't believe this, right? But if there is a practitioner that you want to go see, you have all the right in the world to go see that person. So there's multiple people to choose from, okay? And if there's like 4 chiropractors on the same street and the attorney recommends one for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that the other 3 are off limits for you, okay? So do your own research, all right? Ask around and find out who is going to be able to help you heal from these injuries and document it properly so that you don't end up owing money at the end of your case. You actually end up making money in settlement, okay? You pay in to your insurance, your auto insurance, like since the day you were able to drive. For some of you, that's been like a couple months. For others, it's been like 80 years, okay? So you pay in to your auto insurance with the hope that you never have to use it. But when you do have to use it, use it. And if you don't know the 3 things that I just said, you're not cashing in on those benefits fully. You're not going to receive the full benefit that you've been paying into for your entire life. And in Florida, I want to mention this too. In Florida, the law states that you have 14 days after an accident to have an exam. Okay? So if you're in an accident and you don't think that you're badly injured, okay? If you want my advice, I would at least go have an exam, because if you don't have an exam, you waive all of that. Everything I just talked about in this video, you waive all of your benefits. You cannot go on day 15 or 16 and say, oh, I'm injured now, And what's interesting is a lot of injuries from accidents, you actually don't start feeling the symptoms from them until days, sometimes even weeks after the accident, because your sympathetic nervous system is like, holy crap, I was just in an accident. And the amount of cortisol that's pumping through your body actually helps to decrease pain, which is really interesting, because you could, on day 14, day 15, day 16, have back pain for the first time in your life, okay? Or now you're getting headaches, 10 times more often than you used to. And the only thing that changed is this accident, but your sympathetic nervous system has kind of chilled out a little bit, and now all these problems have an opportunity to present themselves. So just make sure if you're in an accident, seriously, your insurance is going to pay for it. Just go get an exam. That's all you have to do. Of course, the person who sees you is going to recommend treatment based on what you have going on. And it is a good idea, okay? It is a good idea to take them up on their recommendations for treatment, because let's say you do progressively get worse over the next couple weeks or even month or 2, you could prevent that, okay? You really can. And I've seen it. I've seen people, like, they come in and they're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's just just right here. It just hurts right here. I have a little bit of whiplash, whatever. And I tell them, because this is like 9 times out of 10 this happens, I tell them, okay, let me just check all of you. And they have a lot going on in their low back, but they don't feel that pain yet. And I'm just like, this is not normal. Something's wrong down here. And I tell them, listen, right now your neck pain is what your brain is focusing on. Okay. You never had neck pain before. Whiplash it can keep you up at night. I mean, it's not fun, guys. Like, it's really not. But I'm like, your brain's not even paying attention to your low back now, because your neck is your priority. And I'm just like, just don't be surprised if in, a couple of weeks you have low back pain, okay? So I tell them that, and then a couple of weeks go by and they're like, it's the weirdest thing, I have low back pain, right? And I'm just like, it's one of those times where I want to say I told you so, but I told them so. Anyway, I hope that these 3 things can help you guys in the future, whether it's you or somebody you know. I hope that you're not in a car accident and you don't have to find this video and go through these to use it. But honestly, like statistically, especially if you're in a more congested area, the likelihood of you being in a car accident, and even if it's a little fender bender in a parking lot, it doesn't matter. It's a car accident, okay? So in your lifetime, I hope that these 3 things help to decrease the financial burden after a car accident. And even more important, I hope these 3 tips help to make you money after a car accident. All right, guys, I will see you in the next video. And as always, just put any questions or comments below, and I'm more than happy to go over those, to answer them, to talk to you. Reach out to me. Love you guys. Bye.